Looking for the best pre-built gaming PC 2023? You've come to the right place. Hi, welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. Buying a pre-built gaming PC in 2023 can be hard, especially with so many bad pre-builts out there waiting to scam you. So in this best pre-built gaming PC buying guide, we're gonna get you everything that you need to know to buy the best gaming computer 2023 for you. And we'll make specific product recommendations for 1080p, 1440p, and 4K gaming pre-built PCs. Whether you're looking to dominate in esports games like Valorant or League of Legends, play titles like Starfield at 4K, or just looking for a budget gaming PC to play Roblox, we'll help you find the best pre-built gaming PC 2023. Let's jump into it. Now, when buying a pre-built gaming PC, you basically have two options: an OEM, original equipment manufacturer, and an SI, or system integrator. Now, SIs like Skytech, ABS, CyberPower, iBuyPower, and others use standard PC parts to assemble their PCs. For example, a motherboard from Gigabyte, a graphics card from ASUS, and a power supply from EVGA. Now, this means that you can easily upgrade your PC in the future using off-the-shelf parts. Now, on the other hand, OEMs like Acer, Lenovo, and HP, they manufacture their own versions of parts, often using cheaper proprietary connections or BIOS versions that may limit your future upgrades. If you want to upgrade your PC easily in the future, choose an SI, even if it costs just a bit more. If you prefer just getting the best deal right now, regardless of future upgradability, you can go with either an OEM or an SI. In our links in the video description below, which we will keep updated, we'll identify which pre-built gaming PCs are OEMs. Our next choice is whether we want to buy a pre-built gaming PC or if we want to pay to have a gaming PC custom built for us. Now, if you order a custom built PC, you select every single component from a list of components that are available to the system integrator, while a pre-built gaming PC, it's just basically one where the system integrator creates a standard build list, depending on what parts they have available. A pre-built gaming PC might list that you're going to get a B650 motherboard, for instance, but not specify the exact model and manufacturer, though some do. In a custom-built PC from someone like iBuyPower, Origin PC, Maingear, and others, you do get to choose, say, B650 Aorus Pro motherboard by Gigabyte. But now you're relying much more on your knowledge of exactly what parts go together well, and they tend to charge quite a bit more for that level of customization. So what's the best value? Well, if you feel confident selecting the right PC parts, for instance, getting the best CPU and graphics card combo, and you don't mind paying a little extra, then having a company do a custom build, it might be right for you. But I believe that for the vast majority of buyers, pre-built gaming PCs offer way more value at every budget level, and honestly, that's what I recommend. Now, buying the best pre-built gaming PC in 2023, it's all about getting the right graphics card, also called the GPU, to play at the resolution and refresh rate that you want. In 2023, the most popular resolutions are 1080p, 1440p, and 4K, with 1440p becoming the new mainstream over 1080p. Of course, a graphics card that can do 4K can obviously do higher FPS at lower resolutions like 1440p or 1080p. All of our listings for best pre-built gaming PC, linked down in the video description, are going to be organized by the highest resolution that they can play most games at. Remember that some games, they're just easier to run than others. For instance, a gaming PC that runs Fortnite at 1440p high settings might need to be turned down to 1080p for a more demanding title like Cyberpunk 2077. And finally, you will also need a gaming monitor that will run at the resolution and frame rate that you want. So check out our Best Gaming Monitor 2023 video if you need help picking one out. In 2023, we've got a new challenge called GPU Video RAM, or VRAM for short. Now, that's the RAM that's on the graphics card itself, and it's different from the system RAM, and you can't upgrade it separately. You'd need to get a brand new graphics card. Nowadays, 8 GB of VRAM just won't be enough to run the latest demanding games like Hogwarts Legacy, The Last of Us Part 1, or others at ultra or high settings, even at 1080p. Now, you can lower the settings, but for smooth gaming on all new releases, you'll need more VRAM. Here's a quick summary. 8 GB of VRAM works great for budget 1080p gaming if you lower settings on harder to run titles. 12 GB of VRAM is good for most 1440p titles without ray tracing, and for 1440p Ultra with ray tracing, or all 4K high to ultra settings, we recommend 16 gigs or more of VRAM. Check out our Best GPU for Gaming 2023 video for more details. So what specific GPU models are you looking for? Now there's 3 GPU makers. There's NVIDIA GeForce, AMD Radeon, and Intel. Though right now Intel just makes budget GPUs. In 2023, all of these companies make very good GPUs, they all have great driver support, and they're all reliable. Starting at 4K gaming GPUs on the NVIDIA side, we recommend the RTX 4080 16GB or RTX 4090 with 24GB. With the RTX 4090, it's currently the fastest overall GPU. You can consider the RTX 4070 Ti 12GB as it is currently playable at 4K without ray tracing, but its future may be limited at 4K due to its 12GB of VRAM. On the AMD Radeon side, at 4K, we recommend any of the RX 7900 series GPUs like the RX 7900 XT and their fastest RX 7900 XTX 24GB. Moving over to 1440p GPUs on the AMD Radeon side, we recommend their older but still very good RX 6700 XT 12GB GPU. On the NVIDIA side, we recommend a minimum of an RTX 3060 12GB or RTX 4060 Ti 16GB or faster graphics card. Note there are 8GB versions of both the 4060 Ti and the 3060, so be careful. For Intel, we'd recommend the Arc A770 16GB version. For 1080p GPUs, it's a little bit more complicated. Any of the GPUs we've already mentioned will work great. And there are a number of 8GB GPUs that you can consider for budget gaming, which might require you to turn down settings for some of the new release titles. These GPUs include the AMD Radeon RX 6600, 6600 XT, and 6650 XT, as well as the newer RX 7600 8GB model. NVIDIA GPUs here include the RTX 3050, 3060 8GB, the RTX 4060, the RTX 3070, all 8GB GPUs. The Intel Arc A750 8GB is also very relevant. Warning! There are a lot of PCs advertised as gaming computers with total garbage graphics cards. Do not buy these PCs under any circumstances, as you will regret it when you actually try to play games on them. I would avoid any GPU with less than 8GB of VRAM in 2023. Including the previously popular NVIDIA GTX 1660 Super 6GB. The AMD RX 6500 XT was a laptop graphics card that was badly ported over to desktop and should be avoided. I also do not recommend the Intel A380 as it's just too weak. And as always, just throw those GTX 1650s, 1630s, 1030s, and GT 710s into the recycling bin. Let's talk about the CPU in your best pre-built gaming PC. Now, modern CPUs, they become very fast. And honestly, in today's pre-built market, you'll basically see 2 tiers of CPUs. A more budget-friendly, older lineup like the Ryzen 5600X, 12th gen Intel CPUs like the i5-12600K, or 13th and 14th gen non-K Intel CPUs like the i5-13400. At the more premium tier, you're going to see the Ryzen 7000 CPUs like the Ryzen 7600X, or top-tier Ryzen 7800X3D, and high-end Intel CPUs from the 13th and upcoming 14th gen with a K in their name, like the i5-13600K. So, which one do you need? Well, it all depends on your graphics card. As with the higher end of 1440p and any of the 4K graphics cards, getting a faster CPU will increase your FPS. Meanwhile, at the budget level, you just need a budget tier CPU to get the full GPU performance. Note that while most of these CPUs are fine for amateur level production work, if you do heavy professional level production work, like high-end video editing, I always recommend getting an 8-core CPU or higher. Let's talk about CPU cooling and case airflow for your gaming PC. Now, you don't want to thermally throttle your PC because that's bad. For simple guidance, if you have a Ryzen CPU with 6 cores or an Intel CPU without a K in its name, low profile downdraft style coolers, they're generally fine, though we always appreciate seeing at least a budget tower air cooler. For 8-core or bigger Ryzen CPUs or i5 Intel CPUs with a K in their name, at a minimum, we want a budget tower air cooler or a 120mm liquid AIO cooler. For 12 or 16 core count Ryzen CPUs, or an i7 or i9 CPU with a K in its name, like the 13700K, consider at least a 240mm AIO liquid cooler or big air cooler. Liquid coolers are more common for better shipping protection. For case airflow, look for clear air intakes and how hot air is exhausted. Mesh front panels, for instance, or glass with significant air gaps are best. You want at least 2 to 3 intake fans and 1 exhaust fan. You can still have good aesthetics with RGB while ensuring good airflow, so don't settle for a PC that won't perform its best. How much RAM do you need for the best pre-built gaming PC in 2023? Well, for just gaming, you want to get at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, and the sticks should be in pairs, either 2 or 4, to get the best performance. In 2023, you really want to avoid any system with only 8 gigabytes of RAM, and while 32 gigabytes, it's not necessary except for a handful of CPU-intensive simulation games with super heavy modding. It is nice to have, though it's generally only available at about the $2,000 price point and above. Of course, if you buy from a system integrator, you can always add more RAM in the future. Just don't mix and match RAM kits, so make sure to get an identical kit or just completely replace the existing one. In terms of DDR5 versus DDR4 RAM, there's not really much for you to do, as the SI or the OEM will put in the correct type based on the CPU. Ryzen 7000 CPUs, they're DDR5 only, while Ryzen 5000 and Intel 11th and 10th gen CPUs, they're DDR4 only. Intel CPUs in the 12th to 14th gen can either use DDR4 or DDR5, but it's locked in when they install the motherboard. And I'd really only worry about this for ultra high-end pre-built gaming PCs using K-SKU 13th or 14th generation Intel CPUs, where I would recommend fast DDR5 if you can afford it without having to settle for a slower GPU. In terms of RAM speed, for DDR4, I'd recommend getting at least 3200 speed memory. I really like 3600 speed if you can find it. For DDR5 memory speed, we'd like to see DDR5 5600 or 6000 for Ryzen, and even higher 6000 and beyond for Intel 13th and 14th gen systems. Here's a quick pro tip. The most common mistake that system builders make is forgetting to clock up the RAM to the full rated speed using the XMP, DOCP, or Expo profiles. So, when you get your pre-built gaming PC, check the RAM speed. Make sure it's running at the advertised speed. And I'll leave a link down in the video description on how to do exactly that. If they've forgotten to do it, reach out to their customer service and have them walk you through it, or you can use our How to Set Up a PC guide to do it yourself in the BIOS. Let's jump into the best pre-built gaming PC product recommendations. Remember, links are down in the video description, and we are going to continue to update the list of best deals every couple of days, so keep checking that list for the best deals. Let's jump into the best pre-built gaming PC 2023, and we're going to start off at 4K. We're going to start at the very top, and we're going to work our way down. Remember, everything is linked down in the video description, and really at the top end, we're looking to spend anywhere from like $3,300, $3,400 up to $3,800. That's closer to where I've seen them. These are two particularly good deals that I've seen that just kind of popped up. You really can go two different ways at the high end. You can either go Ryzen or you can go high-end Intel. Let's talk about the difference. AMD Ryzen 7800X3D in this particular PC, this is the Skytech Azure gaming PC. That's just a kind of a generic, the Azure name is just generic name for anything that they put in this case, which is that Atrium style case. It's called the Montech Sky 2. Really love this case. It's got a 360 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler mounted on the top, which is absolutely phenomenal. This is going to give you great performance, especially with that 7800X3D. That's the Ryzen 7800X3D. It's got AMD's 3D V-Cache, phenomenal for gaming. And this is going to be good for quite some time to come. And it's got, of course, the RTX 4090, which is the top GPU on the planet, the top graphics card on the planet right now, hands down. And then some of the other specs are great. 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, 32 gigs of RAM. It's RGB RAM. I do like that you're getting 32 here. I would not settle at this price point for 16 gigs of RAM. You can find some of those PCs out there. I just wouldn't do it. Get 32 while you're here. And then some of the other nice to haves, it's got a PCIe 5.0 PSU. In my book, that's really, really good, especially when you're dealing with an RTX 4090 graphics card out there. So I do like that as well. Overall, super performative gaming PC at 4K. Another way you could go is something like the ABS Vortex X Aqua High. I don't know where they come up with these names. ABS is Newegg's in-house brand. Newegg is one of the leading retailers for electronics, particularly PC parts. And every now and then they take all their PC parts and they put them together in pre-builts, and ABS is their kind of dedicated brand for their pre-builts. They do a great job on them. I highly recommend them. This is an i9 13900K, so different approach. It's just an Intel CPU. The 13900K runs neck and neck with the 7800X3D, 7800X3D, maybe slightly ahead, but the 13900K has more cores. So if you're into doing heavy professional workloads that need tons and tons of cores, I would probably lean towards this one. If you're just gaming or primarily gaming, I like the 7800X 3D slightly better. But honestly, it's like picking between a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. You're going to get a super fast, insane supercar either way. Also with the RTX 4090, also with 32 gigs of RAM, I will say I do like this about Newegg and their ABS brand. They will tell you exactly what parts you're getting. They're going to tell you you're going to get the MSI GeForce RTX 4090 Gaming Trio, which is actually a really nice 4090. I just built a gaming PC with the same card. The MSI Z790 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi motherboard. Really nice motherboard. It's got some cool highlights on it as well. But honestly, $3,400, you can't go wrong with either of the PCs we've just looked at. Obviously, not everybody has that much to spend on a gaming PC, so let's drop down a price tier to an RTX 4080. And you're going to see these start anywhere from about $2,300 and they can go up to about $2,700, $2,800, depending on all the extras you want as well. I'd love to say I could show you a bunch of AMD GPU pre-built gaming PCs, but AMD has been late to launch their GPUs, so they're just late to market. Right now, it's pretty much everything NVIDIA out there. That might change towards the end of the year or early 2024. So here's a great deal, $2,499. This is a Skytech Eclipse gaming PC. Eclipse just being their generic name for anything they put in this case, which is the Phanteks G500A. I actually have this case sitting right next to me. I just built my personal gaming PC in it. I absolutely love this case. But here we're going to go with an i5 13600K super high performance mid-range gaming CPU. And for an RTX 4080, maybe that's all you need. You could, of course, go higher end on the CPU at 13700K. I see some deals out there with like the Ryzen 7800X 3D as well as the RTX 4080, but they're all a little bit more money. I think this is a really good compromise of CPU and GPU. Also 1 terabyte NVMe, also 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM, 2 thumbs up there. It's okay to get 16 gigs here if you save a little bit of money, but this is still a range I would expect to get 32 gigs of RAM. 360 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler is just absolutely phenomenal. Don't really need it. 240 would have been fine. But for $2,499, 2 thumbs up. Another way you can go here is going Ryzen instead for the CPU. So this is an AMD Ryzen 7 7700X. The performance on this CPU slightly faster than the i5 13600K for the RTX 4080. And right now, this one just went on super sale a second ago, $2,349. Again, we got some great sales going on. Hopefully those continue. Remember to check out those links in the video description. 2 terabyte NVMe SSD, that's phenomenal. This is a great deal for $2,349. Let's jump into the best 1440p pre-built gaming PC in 2023. We've got tons of great options. Remember to check the links down in the video description. We're going to keep adding in deals as we find better and better ones every week. And let's talk a little bit about the cost. How much should you be looking to spend? Obviously, any of the 4K PCs we just looked at would also be great for super high FPS 1440p, but they cost quite a bit more. So if you're looking for good FPS at 1440p, you're looking to spend anywhere from about, I'd say $1,400 up to about $2,000. And let's talk about what you get for that. At the higher end, especially something like this, the CyberPower PC Gamer Extreme. You love these names, right? It's got an i7 13700K and it's got an RTX 4070 Ti. Now the 4070 Ti has 12 gigabytes of VRAM. That's the graphics card. It has 12 gigabytes on it. And honestly, you could do 4K 99.9% of titles with this card. There is just a handful where it does run out of VRAM if you have ray tracing turned on and you're playing at ultra 4K basically. So I can't technically call it a no compromises 4K experience. Just know that 99.9% of titles it'll be good for, but there are titles upcoming that it may struggle with at 4K. 1440p should be great. Right now, $1,899. I like this case. It's a good airflow case on it. It's got a 240 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler that's front mounted on it. Looks amazing. It comes with 16 gigs of system memory and not 32. Now at this price point, 16 becomes a little bit more common, though a lot of the DDR5 kits are 32 gigs. So you can still find 32 gigs here and there, but this is a pretty good price for $1,899. Let's throw in an OEM PC as well. This is from HP Omen. I like HP Omen because in the BIOS, if you want to swap in more memory in the future, you're able to do that. They can use XMP memory profiles. It makes it super easy as opposed to other OEMs that don't. They only use the other timings for them. So I like the HP Omen 40L. This is a great airflow case to it. The 40L, this is just the name for the case. The specs on this are good. i7 13700K. 16 gigs of memory, and an RTX 4070 Ti with 12 gigs of VRAM. Right now, also $1899, often sells for a little bit cheaper than some of the system integrator systems. Just another option out there. All right, dropping down another performance tier. So now we're somewhere around like $1,399, $1,400 up to about $1,600. And we're looking at an RTX 4070. That's right, RTX 4070, not the Ti version, so it's a little slower, but still has that 12 gigs of VRAM. Just quick note, AMD did introduce the 7800 XT, which has great performance on it, and we do expect those probably hit the pre-built market, but maybe not until the end of the year. As we drop down in overall price, we're also gonna drop down in CPU power a little bit, but we're still at a Ryzen 5 7600X, which is considerably faster than some of the older generation like Ryzen 5000 series CPUs out there, or Intel 12th gen, or any of the Intel 13th gen locked CPUs like the i5-13400. So $1,600, Ryzen 5 7600X, 2 thumbs up. The system next to me is a Ryzen 7600 as well. You don't need to worry about the X versus the non-X CPU. They're effectively the same in terms of performance. 16 gigs of DDR5 5600. All the other specs look really great. It's got a pretty decent MSI B650 motherboard in it, 1 terabyte NVMe, pretty good cooler on it, although we're into air cooling here. These CPUs do not need a liquid cooler. This is a completely fine air cooler for this CPU as well. Pretty good system here for $1,600. Jumping back over to Amazon here, we've got the Skytech Nebula. That's just the name for this particular PC case setup. And this is a pretty good setup, but it is using an older CPU, which is fine. It's just gonna be slightly lower performance than the Ryzen 7000 series CPU that we just saw. Got a Ryzen 5 5600X, and it's got an RTX 4070. Similar 1 terabyte NVMe, similar 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM on this one, 600 watt power supply. Overall, if you're looking to save a little bit of money, $1499, not a bad price point. I would recommend if you can go up to those Ryzen 7000 series CPUs or those unlocked like 13600K type CPUs. Let's jump to the best 1080p pre-built gaming PCs in 2023. And you're like, Jason, wow, look at that, $999. We dropped down like $400. Yes, we'll talk about that in just a second, but remember to check those links down in the video description. We're going to continue to update those deals as new deals come in. And you're like, okay, we also dropped down to an RTX 3060. Let's talk a little bit about the gap in the market right now. Game developers, they're releasing games right now at these super high end. So these are high-end AAA type titles. They were anticipating the graphics card manufacturers we're going to start putting more VRAM on their cards. And as a result, some of the games that are coming out right now, if you turn them at even 1080p high or ultra settings, they will actually run out of VRAM with only 8 gigs. That's why I'm recommending at least 10 to 12 gigs of VRAM, even for super high FPS 1080p. Budget stuff, you'd be fine. You just turn down the settings to medium. So for instance, the 4060, 8 gigabyte, I'm not recommending. The 4060 Ti, 8 gigabyte, I'm not recommending. That's why we're going for the 3060, 12 gigabyte. It's about the same performance as the 4060, and it has 12 gigs of VRAM, so 2 thumbs up there. This is really like a 60 FPS 1440p experience or a high FPS 1080p experience, and something like the Skytech Gaming Shiva 2 with an i5-12400 and the RTX 3060 12 gigabyte, 2 thumbs up here. Now this comes with 500 gigs of NVMe SSD storage and 16 gigs of system RAM storage, which is all absolutely great. I love that it's got a Budget Tower air cooler on it. It's RGB. The case looks phenomenal. $999 is a great deal. Once we drop down to about $800, we're looking at a graphics card level of like an RTX 3050 8 gigabyte, maybe an RX 7600 8 gigabyte as well. Let's talk a little bit about the difference. Honestly, compared to the 3060, not tons of differences in terms of overall performance. I will say these are solid 1080p cards, and with only 8 gigs of VRAM, 99.9% of the titles out there, you're gonna be absolutely fine. But the brand new on-release super high-end AAA titles like The Last of Us Part 1, Hogwarts Legacy, those kinds of things, you may have to turn down the textures even at 1080p to medium. Most games now realize that VRAM's an issue, so the first time you load it up, it'll automatically put that into the settings. But 99% of the titles are gonna be great for something like this, the Acer Gaming Nitro. This has an i5-13400F, very strong CPU for this price point. 16 gigs of system RAM, and an RTX 3050 8GB SSD, along with a 1TB NVMe SSD. All that's phenomenal. This is an OEM PC. Just know if you ever want to add more memory or something like that, it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the rear, but for $799, this is a great deal. Another great deal I found right now is a Thermaltake. Thermaltake is another. They mostly make cases and coolers and fans, but they also have their own pre-built business, and this is a great one. This is a great case. Great fans on it. Love the airflow. Love the fact it comes with an additional tower air cooler, not just a downdraft cooler. 2 thumbs up there. Slightly less performative CPU, the i5-12400, but at this graphics card level, doesn't really matter. Honestly, does not really matter whatsoever. Ryzen 5600 would be fine. An i3-12100 would be fine. It comes with 16 gigs of DDR4 memory at 3600 megahertz, which I absolutely love. $749. This is about the floor. If you can find something cheaper than this, you're doing super well. I think at this price point, if this is all the money I had to spend, I would pick this up. Remember, of course, check those links down in the video description. We will continue to update on them on a regular basis, almost daily, with new deals as they become available. And if you got value out of this video, please give it a like. It makes a really big difference to the channel. YouTube absolutely loves it. And we'll catch you on the next one.